Hello, world civilizations. This is Mr. Lassiter with you tonight, and we're going to be talking about the Mongols, this nomadic warrior people who created the largest land empire the world had ever seen. I hope I'll do them justice, so let's go ahead and get started. A couple questions to consider in tonight's video. Who were the Mongols and where did they come from, and how did they create the world's largest land empire? Our vocabulary: the Mongols, Mongolia, Genghis Khan, tribute, and shamanism. As you can see there, the extent of the Mongol Empire, basically covering nearly all of Asia, including the Middle East, Central Asia, and China, and extending westward even into Eastern Europe. So let's talk about the Mongols. They were a pastoral people from modern-day Mongolia. This meant that they were nomadic herders. They weren't settled people who farmed. Pastoralists, as we've learned before, basically herded animals and lived off of milk and meat as opposed to wheat. Now, they would trade for these things, and so they came into contact all the time with settled people who they traded for metal goods or wheat or food of anything. And this is going to be very important, as we'll see later on, the trade that comes with the Mongol Empire. They're from modern-day Mongolia, which is north of China and south of Russia in Eastern Asia. The Mongols rise to power quickly, mostly due to their superior military prowess. They are superior horsemen. They have long bows. They would use stirrups with their horses, which allowed them to ride and shoot their bows and arrows as they were riding, and they were able to overrun many of the armies they came up against. Their initial success, their largest success, came under this guy that you see to the right, Temujin, or as he became known, Genghis Khan, who devoted himself to conquest. He's born in about 1162. He actually is known for being pretty ruthless. He kills his half-brother at about age 14 over some hunting spoils. But by 1206, he becomes what is called the Great Khan, or Genghis Khan. Basically, the Mongols had conquered many different clans, had conquered different regions, and he had been kind of the superior leader, and so in this large vote, they elect him or appoint him to be the Great Khan. And he will rule as Great Khan until his death. During his time of leadership, he conquered most of Eurasia. And once he died, the later Great Khans will conquer more of that territory. We'll talk some more about that tomorrow, though. And what was life like in this Mongol army? We said it was extremely advanced. They were very mobile. These were nomadic people. They knew how to move from place to place very quickly. Their armies would consist of about 10,000 man armies, and sometimes those armies could combine, if they needed to, into kind of this very daunting 100,000 man force. They were very skilled archers, horsemen, and fighters, but they didn't travel alone. Women, children, their animal herds, their yurts or huts, these kind of tent-like houses, they moved with the army, and they kept it fed, clothed, and sheltered everywhere they went. All this combined to make the Mongol army seemingly invincible. Definitely one of the most advanced for the day. And as we'll see later, because they were moving and seeing all these different types of military technologies from all over the Eastern world, they were able to incorporate new technology into their fighting very quickly. Now, the strategy of the Mongol army basically was to lay siege to a city. Then you'd offer the city to surrender. You say you can surrender and you can pay us tribute. And tribute was any type of money or tax that would be paid to the Mongols. Basically, that's what they were looking for. They were demanding money from the people of whatever region they conquered. If the city surrendered, the Mongols would let the people live. Most likely, they'd kill off the leaders, redistribute the land, demand tribute from the people. But if the city decided to fight back, well, then the Mongols just lay waste to everyone in the city, men, women, children. They'd kill everyone there and still demand tribute from the region. This was fairly terrifying And so the Mongols became known as the people who would have no mercy. And so eventually, as that word spread, they would come to a city, they would surround it, and the city would ultimately surrender, knowing the consequence if they did not. It did not. It was not very often that the Mongols were defeated, especially early on. As far as religion, this is something pretty unique that we haven't talked about yet. The Mongols practiced shamanism, which were rituals in which special individuals visited and were influenced by the supernatural world. So the Khan, or the Great Khan, with the aid of shamans, could speak to or for the ultimate god, who's represented as either the sky god or god of the heavens. But that wasn't the only religion that Mongols saw. They came into contact with Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism. And so Mongols might be shamanists, but they also, in the same family, might have Buddhists or Muslims or Christians. And they adopted these religions as they came into contact with them. So it wasn't necessarily unusual. They were very tolerant of any religion. There was we could say, some type of religious freedom within the Mongol Empire. They didn't try to force people to convert to shamanism or give up the religion that they had. So that's one of our effects of Mongol conquest, religious tolerance. But other effects were definitely felt, especially with trade. Trade along the Silk Road, which had not been in use for a long time, entered a golden age under the Mongols. There was a sharing of technology, goods, ideas, science and mathematics, military technology at unprecedented levels. It was actually said that a person who was in good standing with the Mongols could travel by themselves from one end of the empire all the way to the other without fear of being attacked because of Mongol protection. So trade increases greatly during this time period. We even see that Marco Polo makes his journey during this time period, which and talks in his writings a lot about how the Mongols ran their society. On the right, you can actually see what amounts to a passport. It was a small plaque, about 7 inches tall, that people who were traveling across the empire, the Mongol Empire, would carry with them, showing that they were backed by the Mongol government. And the inscription on this one reads, "By the strength of eternal heaven," again, talking about shamanism with the eternal heaven or sky god, "an edict of the emperor or Khan, he who has no respect shall be guilty." Basically, if you don't respect the traveler carrying this passport, then you're going to be at the mercy of the Great Khan, who will do what he will with you. But as trade spread, so did the opportunities for disease to spread. And what we've been talking about, or what we talked about last week with the plague or Black Death, one of the reasons it spread so quickly from Southeast Asia and China all the way to Europe was because we see an increase in trade with the Mongols. So we can kind of see the plague spread from the far East Asia across the continent to Europe, pretty much along the same path that the Mongols take in their conquests. So that was an unintended effect, but nevertheless does occur. So why were the Mongols so successful? Well, superior horsemanship and military technology. They were able to incorporate new military technology into their army, and they even accepted non-Mongol soldiers. So if you were conquered by the Mongols, they didn't just kill you from the army, but they allowed you to fight for them. So this increased their size. Their reputation for slaughtering those who would not surrender, that was pretty scary and made people want to give up. So that helped them be successful. And then also, the Mongols could see that places they were conquering sometimes had rivalries. So there might be a rivalry between princes. For example, in Russia, different princes of Russia did not necessarily get along. So the Mongols would form an alliance with one of the groups of princes and then conquer the whole region, and then look with favor upon the group that they formed an alliance with. This happened in many different places. So that's it. That's our introduction to the Mongols. Make sure that you can get this vocabulary in your digital notebook. Make sure you can answer these 2 questions. Go back and review this video if you need anything else. We're still going to be talking about the Mongols tomorrow. We'll go into a little bit more detail. It'll be a little bit more complicated. We'll see kind of the soap opera that takes place with the different khanates which develop later on in the Mongol Empire. Other than that, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.